Alright gang, welcome back to another edition of Dark Power. You see I kind of switched up where we are a little bit in my apartment, but something that's not going to be switching up is how fast-paced the action is going to be tonight. We have an episode of Dark, we have an episode of Impact, no episode of Powerrr or Carnyland. As you know, NWA has paused all of their current programming due to the ramifications of Dave Lagana resigning from the Speaking Out movement. So until then, it's kind of... I don't want to say unfortunate, but it's a little just continual roadblocks. We'll say that. Obstacles, roadblocks. NWA has been trying for months to come back. They have had issues with first the pandemic, then they say, okay, we're not going to be able to have Power, but we will air the Superpower episode that we planned on having. You know, we have to cancel Hard Times. Okay, now we can't have NWA Power anymore. We're going to try something new. We're going to try something different. We're going to do this thing called Carnyland. And we start with Carnyland. Carnyland seems to be taking off. And now this. Not to say that this is something that is unfortunate. It's more something along the lines of, wow, just another setback. And that's not to take away anything from the women who have spoken out against Dave Lagana or have come forward. We need those people to come forward. It's just, you hate to see somebody, one person's mistake or one person's bad action take something away from countless other people. But moving onwards, as we must, we're going to start today with AEW Dark. AEW Dark has a lot of matches. They move pretty quickly. They move at a quick pace compared to other episodes. I will say that despite this, there are some matches that have some great stories. And starting us off is Shawn Spears versus Caster. He's going to pick up a quick win over Caster, but the important thing here is the storyline of what's happening with the glove and Tully Blanchard being a factor in Shawn Spears' matches. So here we have a situation where they're building on the storyline of Tully Blanchard giving Shawn Spears the glove after the loss to Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing. I think it was, Double or Nothing. And the building on that of last week, he gave him something, a foreign object, to slide inside the glove. Aubrey had already checked the glove, so she had no reason to think that there was something in the glove. Right now, this week, Aubrey has learned from the mistake, and she's kind of checking more to see what's going on with the glove. And so now Spears beats the ever-loving life out of Caster quickly and picks up the win. And it's after the match that he puts something into the glove and then comes back into the ring to get that one final hit on Caster. But there's no reason for Aubrey. I mean, obviously the match is over. Why would she check the glove to begin with? Because the match is over. But still, for us, the viewer at home, we're realizing that, wow, this vicious streak of Shawn Spears is really coming out, and Tully Blanchard is doing whatever it takes to bring that vicious streak out. Somebody else, a manager that does bring out a vicious streak in their customer, their client, to borrow a Paul Heymanism, is Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts, who is the manager, as you know, for Lance Archer. And Lance Archer has a match right after this up against Pineapple Pete. Poor Pineapple Pete. He just can't get he's always getting the short end of the stick, right? He's always, just poor guy. Before it was Jericho. Now it's Lance Archer. And Pineapple Pete does not last that long against Lance Archer. He puts up a strong fight, gotta say, but in the end, he takes that blackout because, well, everybody dies. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that normally dark matches are either just dark matches or they're building towards a match the next night on Dynamite. This is a match that's actually building towards a Fyter Fest match, which is Lance Archer versus Joey Janela. I want to say that's week 2. I want to say it's week 2 of Fyter Fest. It might be tomorrow, in which case, basically everything I'm saying is, in a weird way, still working, but not at the same time, right? But Joey Janela is ringside for the Lance Archer match. They have a bit of a back and forth throughout the course of the match. After the match, Janela tries to get into the ring because Lance Archer will not let up on Pineapple Pete, and he has a leaf blower with him. And he says something really great. It's that the bad boy can never die. Right? And that's the theme music or the catchphrase of Lance Archer. Everybody dies. I'll never do that again, promise. But that's his catchphrase. And so Janelle is saying, bad boys don't die. And Janela's out here fighting for the honor of his friend, Sonny Kiss, and so it'll be interesting to see whether Janela is able to pick up the win at Fyter Fest. I don't think he will be. Lance Archer is definitely a bigger name, somebody who needs to be stacking wins again after everything that happened with Cody and the TNT title tournament. But I think that Janela is a easy victim in that sense. But honestly, if Janela is an easy victim, it does say something about AEW's treatment of Janela and where they're going to go in the future when it comes to Janela and his presence on AEW. Presence on AEW it's important, right? You got to have strong debuts. You got to have strong continuances of those debuts, strong storylines. And somebody who had a very strong debut is Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks, we know him very well, right, from NWA Power, and now where he's here on AEW, and we're treated to him on AEW Dark. He's got a match against Griff Garrison. He's going to pick up the win. I think it's interesting that, so for those who are unaware, the entrances on either side of the ring, there are two tunnels, both on Dark, Dynamite, all AEW programming. Heels will always come from the left. Faces will always come from the right. And I thought it was interesting that Ricky Starks, despite having a emotional debut on Dynamite and despite having a inspiring story, is coming from the heel section. That I thought was kind of interesting. He does work this match as the heel, a little bit of heelish tendencies, but really the heel tendencies comes after the match, where he leaves, goes to the announce table, puts his fist out for Excalibur to give him a fist bump, but then he's like, no, not you. Let me, Taz. Taz is the guy. And we know Taz is a heel announcer. Taz is a heel with Brian Cage. So the fact that he's trying to get that fist bump from Taz means something. But Ricky Starks wins this match over Griff Garrison. A nice match to bounce back from the TNT title failure to capture it against Cody. I was going to say lost, but he can lose something he never had. But he lost that match. This is a way to bounce back for him. And something that I think is really good is see how they develop Ricky Starks down the road. He's somebody who has a lot of potential for them, and he just gets added to the list of young talent, right? Like we've talked about this before. Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and MJF. Now they've got Ricky Starks to add to that list. Let's see where they go with it. I'm excited to see that. I think he will have a good number of matches on Dark throughout the course of the next couple months as they build him up to be somebody that we can see featured more frequently on Dynamite. There's a lot of people in AEW. They got to be able to juggle them. That's one of the reasons why Dark has so many matches to begin with. I, for one, will definitely be excited when Dark kind of goes back to being matches with AEW talent versus AEW talent versus AEW talent up against independent talent. Speaking of solo or singles competitors, they announced that during this next match, which is Scorpio Sky versus Brady Pierce, that Scorpio Sky, he is still a member of SCU, but he is going to focus on singles gold, whereas Christopher Daniels is going to be working with Kazarian from now on to be the tag team member, or the tag team of SCU. I think this is very important. Scorpio Sky has always kind of looked like the breakout singles star of SCU. He's the youngest member of the team. He has had some of the more higher profile matches. Remember, he kind of coerced or tricked, I guess is the better way to put it, Jericho into a title shot against Jericho when he had the World Heavyweight Championship. He has had a number of big matches, first tag team champion ever. He has his own theme music now, really great song, really great theme. Nice West Coast vibe to it, a lot of good piano. I have a history in music and 11 years of piano, so I always appreciate a good good song with piano in it, and especially when it's a wrestling theme. It's something that was hard to pull off, but they were able to do it well. They got him a great series of pyro. The pyro budget being something that AEW always has a pyro budget, and that's something that we like to see here on Dark Power. But Scorpio Sky picks up a nice win over Brady Pierce, and after this is a match with probably the second best story being told of the night, which is funny considering one of the workers is still pretty green in the ring, but it is, I wrote this down as Brandi, but it's Brandi Rhodes teaming with Allie versus Kalin King and Schuyler Moore, or as they were introduced, Brandi and Allie, the Nightmare Sisters. But then Brandi quickly corrected this fact to say that they were not actually related. But Nightmare Sisters, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll have to see. But they pick up the win. This match was pretty good from a story sense because this match had the back and forth of a good tag match where two members or one team do not really trust each other, do not really like each other, right? Brandi and Allie just don't get along. And Allie seems to be manipulating the situation. To what end, we don't know yet. QT is not there as he has been exposed to COVID, but his presence is always felt with that wonderful poster that Allie was holding up, right? But maybe that's going to put a little bit of a damper or hold on the storyline to see what exactly Allie is playing at. But it is something that they are working with, and they're saying, okay, whatever's going on with QT and his situation, we can't have her be manipulative with QT, so instead we're going to have her be we're going to lean into the annoying aspect of her annoying Dustin and Brandi. Kalin King, Schuyler Moore, sorry to say, guys, you guys are just collateral damage in this. You ladies put up a great fight, but this match was really about Brandi and Allie picking up the win and kind of weirdly working together as a team. Now they're starting to work a little bit more as a team. Allie was able to get the pin, but she gave it to Brandi just to be that little ego of a heel to say, I could do it, but you know what, we'll throw you the bone. Something nice to see. After this match, there is, to me, it moved quickly, but considering some of the people in the match, but Butcher and Blade versus Lowrider and Fuego del Sol, I believe his name was. This match, quick, hard-hitting, not too much to write home about. Butcher and Blade pick up the win as they should, and that's going to position them for their Fyter Fest tag match. It's an 8-man tag match. They're teaming with the Lucha Bros of Death Triangle up against the... Why am I? No, that's Shayna Baszler. I don't know why I'm doing that for them, but Triangle, I guess. The Rock. They're teaming up with the Lucha Bros of Death Triangle to face none other than FTR and the Young Bucks. So we have Butcher and Blade picking up a win here, and the very next match, we have a treat, ladies and gentlemen. It is none other than the executive vice presidents themselves, the Young Bucks from Rancho Cucamonga, California. They are teaming up against Peter Avalon and Brandon Cutler. And this is probably the best storytelling of the night, dealing with issues between Avalon and Cutler, the Bucks coming back into being tag team wrestlers, what's going on with them, what's going on with FTR, are they preoccupied with FTR? There's a little bit of an ego going on with the Bucks and Avalon and Cutler. Avalon and Cutler start to put things together, just like Brandi and Allie, but in their situation, they come very close to winning. Obviously, they're not going to be picking up the win against the Young Bucks, but they come very close. At the end of Dark, we see a moment where they are able to shake hands with the encouragement of the Bucks, so maybe the Bucks are saying, hey, you guys could get along. You never know. Now, moving onwards to Impact Wrestling. Tonight on Impact Wrestling, we have some pretty good matches, I will say. Little bit of TV filler in other cases, but some things that moved storyline forward, and that's always something that we like to see. So starting us off, fast-paced match, Chris Bay versus Suicide, Johnny Swingers ringside. Chris Bay is going to pick up the win. Very athletic match. It's basically an X Division match, cruiserweight match. You know how these guys can move. And we're talking about how Chris Bay is being set up for a title match against Willie Mack at Slammiversary for the X Division Championship. Remember, last week he pinned Mack in the main event, not the main event, but the second last match, the 6-man tag match where he was teaming up with Swinger and Rohit Raju versus the Deaners and Willie Mack. And now he's facing Suicide, picks up the win over Suicide, but part of the way he picks up the win is with Johnny Swinger being ringside. And remember it's gonna pop up later in the evening, shall we say. After this, there is a Moose promo about how he is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. A pretty strong promo from Moose, I gotta say. And Moose is gonna have Moose's storylines or threads that connect to Moose are gonna be the things that kind of move the most tonight. And that's something that's really cool because he's got a championship that isn't a championship. After this, there's a Chris Bay promo talking about how he wants, how he's going to be facing for the X Division Championship, and we didn't have to wait that long. I kind of teased it, but we didn't have to wait too long because Johnny Swinger talks about how the refs are idiots, and he was able to help Chris Bay in this match, and he will do so again at Slammiversary. However, he doesn't realize that a ref has come up behind him. This is 2 weeks in a row now where they've done this. They've kind of used the same storytelling device where you have somebody talking to somebody facing them, and then the object that who they are berating comes up behind them, and they don't realize it, right? Last week it was the North and Shamrock. This week it's Swinger Bay and the referee. And the referee says that he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Johnny Swinger is banned from ringside for Slammiversary. And that does not seem fair. You know, the ref's being stupid, Daddy. Just being a stupid little Mizark. And it just doesn't make any sense. Johnny Swinger's just there to support his boy. Just there to support his boy. Why would you want to stop him when he's trying to do that? I will say that Johnny Swinger was not somebody that, kind of appealed to me when I first started reviewing Impact with you guys, but he has definitely grown on me. Just the way he talks alone is pretty hilarious. After this, kind of a filler match, but it's Fallah Bahh and TJP versus Reno Scum in a tag match. You will remember that this is coming because Reno Scum accused Fallah Bahh and TJP of being the ones who attacked Trey. They told the rest of the Rascals that. The Rascals then spoke to Fallah Bahh and TJP. Fallah Bahh and TJP now said, "Hey, you can't, you want to talk smack about us? Do it to our face, and we will see you in the ring." And that's where this match is coming from. Fallah Bahh and TJP pick up a win over Reno Scum. Like I said, it's kind of a TV filler match. It's a good storyline in the sense that it's something that's moving week to week, and it's something that we are invested in because of other things that have happened. And it's always good when you see interconnecting moving pieces, right? Like this match is happening because of something else entirely different. This match exists because somebody attacked Trey. It's not really an issue originating between Fallah Bahh, TJP, and Reno Scum. It's something else entirely different. And that's something cool when writers on a wrestling show are able to work things between different characters that can affect characters that aren't even originally in the equation. Always great to see. After this, there is an in-ring promo from the North talking about Ken Shamrock and what happened last week. Speaking of the writing device that was used of having the refs, of having somebody come up behind somebody while they're talking to somebody else. The North kind of explained their actions, saying that they don't believe Ken Shamrock is the baddest man on the planet, most dangerous man, all the epithets that Ken Shamrock applies to himself. They disagree quite strongly, shall we say. And Ken Shamrock hits the ring because he's not going to have any of that, and he's ready to beat the crap out of these two guys. However, it's a 2-on-1 fight until ICU Sami Callihan shows up. This is interesting because Callihan has disagreements with Shamrock, but hey, enemy of my enemy is my friend? No, he should be working with the North then. Friend of my enemy? Enemy of my... Does it matter? We're probably going to get a tag match out of this, and that's what's important. We see that Sami and Shamrock work well with each other to clear the ring of the North, and after this, there's a flashback. Just how last week they had a flashback that focused on aces and eights. We had an aces and eights tease. We now get a flashback to Eric Young. Eric Young is a former Impact World Champion who was one of the members of the WWE roster that was released during the massive talent cuts that happened during the pandemic. Or happened during the pandemic. I don't know if there will still be more cuts. We'll see. But Eric Young is somebody who has been teased as coming back to Impact Wrestling at Slammiversary. After this, they have the Moose and Crazy Steve match. This is okay. So I'm not going into this match expecting Crazy Steve to win. I'll be honest with you guys, and it has nothing to do with Crazy Steve. It's just that I know Moose isn't losing. It could be anybody. Moose isn't losing this match. the storyline is about him holding on to that fake title belt. So the fact that he's in a match for the fake title belt means he's not going to lose the match. Until they show me where the payoff of the storyline is, I'm just not expecting anybody to beat him. Crazy Steve puts up a great fight, gets injured, coughing up blood, all kinds of crazy stuff, kayfabe injury, but he loses. After the match, Moose refuses to back down and continues to beat up on Crazy Steve, forcing referees and Tommy Dreamer to come out. And because of this, Moose kind of backs down, but then turns around and just cold clocks Tommy Dreamer. My God. So, I think we know where this is kind of going. Maybe something for Slammiversary. Who knows? After this, they have a Tommy Dreamer promo where it's a pretty impassioned promo. He's bleeding from the head. He channels a little bit of the Hard Times promo. Talks about Moose's background in the NFL and just generally disparages Moose and says that he will, he'll fight Moose, but Moose is just a waste because he's wasting all of his God-given talent by being a horrible human being in the process. After this, we have a match in the Knockouts division between Kiera Hogan and Havoc. A pretty solid match, I will say. I liked this one a bit more because of the David and Goliath aspect of it due to the large size difference between them. And the issue here is that we're seeing Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, the heels, get one up multiple times over our faces. That happened last week when Tasha Steelz faced Nevaeh, and it's happening this week again when Kiera Hogan picks up a win over Havoc. And after this, I think we probably will be getting some kind of tag match at Slammiversary. There's still 2 shows before Slammiversary. I think probably next week we might have something set up for this. Though I think actually, from what I understand, I think there's a gauntlet match or something of that sort to determine who will be the number 1 contender for the Knockouts champion based off of Purrazzo Grace. So I think we'll have, these guys, these 4 will mix it up in that match, which will be pretty interesting to watch considering they'll be a good chunk of what is happening in the match. Before we get to the main event, there was a brief promo vignette. There was a brief backstage vignette with the locker room talk of Swinger, Great, Madison Rayne. I don't know why I was going to say Grace again. Madison Rayne, Johnny Bravo, Rosemary, and Ty Valkyrie, giving them all something to do this week for Valkyrie, Rosemary, and Bravo. And further, there is a backstage vignette where the North are complaining to Scott D'Amore about what happened with Shamrock jumping them, I guess, is a way to say it, after they jumped Shamrock, and everything that happened with Callihan. And Scott D'Amore says, you know what, we're going to have a tag team title match at Slammiversary, and it will be the North defending the titles against Callihan and Shamrock. That's a weird one to me because you're not giving Shamrock and Callihan a lot of time to develop chemistry in the ring, at least show that they can get over their differences, whereas the North are a well-oiled machine of a tag team. So I wonder here whether the storyline is just something for the North to conquer. Like, that's the end result. Like, it's 2 big names, 2 former world champions of UFC legend for the North to conquer on their journey to be calling themselves the greatest tag team in Impact history, especially because we know, or at least the rumor is, that Gallows and Anderson have signed with Impact Wrestling. We don't know, but if that's the case, then if they beat up Shamrock and Callihan at the pay-per-view and you have Gallows and Anderson debut, then you have a nice tag team feud on your hands with strong tag team versus strong tag team. Anyway, moving onwards to the main event, it is none other than Madman Fulton versus Trey. This is probably the say match of the night. Yeah, it was the match of the night. It's a pretty strong match between Fulton and Trey. These are 2 guys who know what they're doing. It's the second David and Goliath match of the night, and I think it's a situation where sometimes it can be overused, but in this situation it wasn't. And I think it's a kind of a case where these are 2 guys that know how to use their strengths. Trey knows he's got the speed. Fulton knows he's got the brawn. Put it together, and it's something that's going to work almost every single time. And it works here. to the point that the finish of the match makes sense. They want to protect Trey by not having him take a pinfall loss, but Trey should not be able to beat Madman Fulton on paper. So what happens is Trey gets a weapon and causes a disqualification. So the face is causing his own disqualification. He's losing by DQ, but it makes sense because he knows he needs some kind of equalizer to match up strength for strength with Fulton. So in this situation, it does make sense, it does work, and it was a pretty good main event. I think they cut too quickly after this because of editing for time, because it was already 9 o'clock. But he then takes a chair, lays out Ace Austin, and then kind of spends more time beating up Fulton, which I guess in a way makes sense because Fulton is the one who has attacked you and jumped you twice, and this is your way of getting revenge. But at the same time, Fulton's only doing it because Ace told him to. So I would probably be bashing more on Ace, but that's probably the the mistake of the face, right? Every face has to have that glaring weakness. With John Cena, it's trustworthiness. He's willing to trust people too much. With Trey, it's focusing on the wrong person. That's part of the story being told in Punk versus Lesnar during that SummerSlam match. Punk focused too much on getting at Heyman instead of focusing on Lesnar in key moments of the match. And in this after-match situation, Trey's focusing on trying to beat up Fulton when he should be focusing his anger at Ace, especially when it would soften him up for the main event of Slammiversary, which is Ace's whole reason for putting Fulton in matches against against Trey and against Eddie Edwards last week. But anyway, we're speculating too much. We're talking about the future way too much. Let's let things come to us, right? We'll let the game slow down and take it one moment at a time. And that next moment will be next week when we come back to you to talk to you again about next week's episodes of Dark and Impact. The build for Slammiversary is building strong. They have a solid foundation, and each week they are putting bricks where they need to be. I'm excited to see how they continue that build. The Slammiversary pay-per-view is shaping up to be pretty dang good, if I will say so myself. I'm interested to see, because they announced that it's going to be a fatal four-way, basically. Austin, Trey, Edwards, and a mystery opponent. Who that mystery opponent will be. Maybe it will be EC3. Who knows? Maybe it'll be some Eric Young. Maybe it'll be Rusev. Maybe they signed Rusev and we just don't know it yet, right? Who knows? But until next time, guys, I'll catch you. Stay safe. I know that some states are forced to close again because of the pandemic. So as always, guys, stay safe. Keep your loved ones close. And until next time, I'll catch you.